Yeah.
Good.
What? I'm not
You
taking.
gonna say yo, what's popping, everybody? I want to welcome everyone back to Drunk Sports Talk, New York's number one sports talk show. We are the voice of the streets. Allow me to reintroduce myself. It's your boy Cash. You already know who's riding shotgun. My brother, my day one, Q. Q was in the building, and
Yo,
it's a Sunday morning. First of all, how you feeling today, my G?
good man. I feel refreshed. Ready for another long week of work.
Mm-hmm.
Regular roll, day to day. You know what I mean? But this weekend was pretty cool, a little relaxing. We got to see a couple of things happen in the NBA. Watch my whole ethnic community be in shambles last night.
Yeah, yeah. With the talking about the obviously, if you don't know what we're talking about, the boots, Jaron Boots Ennis and Xander Zayas middleweight championship fight last night at the Barclays in Brooklyn definitely was a movie. Puerto Ricans were in the building. Philly was in the building. New Yorkers were in the building. New Yorkers were almost like a just like a third party spectator because it was really like a lot of they were there, but it was more like it felt like Philly versus Puerto Rico. And I don't even want to say that because Philly has a large Puerto Rican population actually, but it was it felt and we're gonna get into it, but it was a movie. A lot of Puerto Ricans they pulled up. You heard Boots getting booed at one point, so
Mm.
but great fight. We'll get into that. Great card. Shout out to all the dudes on the card. We're definitely gonna get into that. I was honestly from the prelims to the co-main and the main. I thought it was like as entertaining as it could possibly be, man. So you saw some good fighters, good matches, good prospects, and a great main event. So it's a good night of boxing, man. And it was I enjoyed it. But before we get into that, we gotta feed our core audience. A lot of things shaking in the NBA this week, man. You know what I mean? And we're kind of late getting to it, but our thing isn't like if you ask me, if someone goes, you know, what's your guys' objective? A lot of these guys are like want to break news or want to jump on the subject fast to kind of get in the algorithm and ride that algorithm. And 95% of the time, maybe they don't have their facts straight or maybe they don't know the whole story. I'm okay with sitting back and kind of analyzing the shit for a couple of days at times, you know what I mean? And really digging into the nuts and bolts and the nooks and crannies of the situation till I have a good understanding. Then, I'm comfortable chopping it up. So that's why probably we didn't jump right on when the Giannis thing went down and the LaMelo thing went down. But we're talking about it now. Uh, like I just mentioned too, like I just mentioned, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who just moved to the Heat after it felt like a 5 year span of rumors. We've been talking about, Giannis moving for mad long from the Bucks, and we all know that the Knicks were his top choice. Obviously, we don't really need him, with all due respect. We would have had to gut out the team as you see Miami did, and we'll get into that in a second. But he winds up moving to the Miami Heat in exchange for a fucking what I think is an over exaggerated, crazy package. You know what I mean? Um, before we get into it, Giannis going to the Heat with a somewhat gutted roster and not a lot of cap flexibility, not a lot of draft picks. I know Vegas said Vegas bumped them up, not which I'm bugging out. Vegas bumped them up to number 5, I believe, for favorites to win the title, which I think is fucking insane. Um, but before we get into it, your initial thoughts on um on the Giannis straight to the Heat, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Not worried at all. Like I still think the
Ain't
Knicks.
worried about nothing, nigga.
I
Ain't
ain't.
worried
I'm
about
not.
nothing.
I'm not worried about nothing. Like to be
Nah.
honest, they got Giannis. They got Giannis and Bobby Porter's. Like that's like
Mm.
if the
Mm-hmm,
Heat
mm-hmm,
if the Heat really think that that's what's gonna take them over over to the top and still be better than the Celtics or be better than the Knicks. You know what I mean? Like it's just or even be better than the Cavs. Like I feel like they're still gonna be that type of team that they are before him. They're gonna be a
Mhm.
little bit better. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, dude's still one of the best big men in the league, bro. One of the best defenders as well. But they lost a lot of scoring. I don't even who's gonna be their point guard. Like it's like they got Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, been in the league for like 10 years. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. It just I could see why they did it. They needed to put some You know what I mean? The Heat now better be really like I would be scared if I was a Heat fan because we lost a lot of a lot of the youth, and now they lost a lot of their trade. Like their draft capital. Like they really don't have no. They only have draft capital for maybe like the next 2 or 3 years, and then after 2029, they really don't have anything to really do for first rounders like up until 2034 or some shit like that. Like that's crazy, man, because you could use those type of picks like to do like what the Knicks did and swap them out and get cash or
Yeah, they're
whatever,
trade pieces. They're really, yeah,
It-
yeah.
and they just lost it all in Giannis. So like if they don't, and I really can't see them winning in the next couple of years. The Knicks are going to be contenders for the next 3 or 4 potentially. You know what I mean? We're going to still see what the Celtics are going to be doing out there with Jaylen Brown. But my initial thought was just like, okay, like who else is going to be shooting the ball? Like, you lost Duncan Robinson the year prior. Now you lost Tyler Hero, and Jaleel Ware. Like, obviously Giannis is worthy of that. I just don't think you know,
Oh
I just don't think he made the right decision. He probably wants to be in warmer weather or party city or that's where I think he kind of just did it. You know what I mean? Like as opposed and probably a change of scenery from leaving Milwaukee because
yeah.
if you really sitting down and you're trying to make a decision of where you want to go, being the high caliber player and athlete that he is, and if he thought that him going to the Heat is gonna automatically make them contenders, I entirely disagree. So I just think he did it for alternative reasons. He already won a chip. I think now he's just on his way out. Let me go party, have fun, be in Miami. I'm gonna get paid eventually. I don't really see them jumping up to be one of the top 3 teams in the East with this move.
Yeah, good take. I don't disagree with any of that. Maybe only thing I slightly disagree with is when you're in Miami, Pat Riley and them don't be really letting you party. I've heard Dwayne Wade and all these Jimmy Butler and all these guys talk about it. There's not a lot of partying going on when you're a Heat guy. You're basically there's a Heat way, so to speak. But anyway,
Yeah, but
and
just think
Giannis,
about it. Like you don't think
I don't see
Miami is a
Giannis
better?
partying all day. Giannis is disciplined.
Yeah,
He's in shape. He's you know what I mean. Like here's I agree though. I think he needed a change of scenery, a fresh start. He was just looking for a way to get out of Milwaukee, obviously. And I think he loved Milwaukee. I just think he thinks they can't go any further. I think he looking a little bit at Pat Riley. Everyone thinks Pat Riley is a genius, and he is. Pat the Rat. I call him Pat the Rat because he shitted on the Knicks. Um, Everyone thinks he's a genius as far as like the moves he's made, and he's put some crazy teams together, and he has more than enough rings to show for it. So I'm not going to say and act like he doesn't know what he's doing. Some people might think he lost his fastball a little bit, and we're going to get into that in a minute because of this. To me, this lopsided trade package. But um, like I said, he probably looked at Pat Riley. He probably looked at Bam. He probably looked at Spoelstra. Spoelstra's, widely regarded as one of the best coaches in the NBA. So I get all that, but what I don't get is I agree with you, man. Like I don't know where the rest of the team is coming from. Like I'm like okay. I'm looking. So all right. First of all, the players sent to Milwaukee were Tyler Hero, right? Very serviceable, high level, really good guard. Jaime Jaquez, a nice piece. Khalil Ware, right, center, big guy, and Kasparis Jakunas or whatever, right? draft assets sent to Milwaukee are, like you said, one, two. Let me count this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks. 4 of them first-round picks. 2 of them unprotected. One a 13 overall and a first-round pick swap in 2030. Bro, that's insane, bro. Now I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Giannis, like you said, like you so eloquently stated, Giannis is Giannis. You know what I mean? Obviously, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's still in his prime, still a top 5 NBA player right now. Let's like he's a hell of a pickup. I mean, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Top, like I said, top 5 MVP candidate. Last year he averaged 30 and 11 and 6 assists. So he does elite numbers. Every year he's in the running for MVP. But the Heat gave up a ton of shit, bro. Like, they don't have. My thing is, how are they going to build out the margins? You know what I'm saying? You talked about that a little bit. I don't like Bam as much as most people do in terms of his game, but he's a really good player. I mean, I got my own reasons why I don't like Bam. The dirty play against Julius Randle and a couple of different things. You know what I mean? But I will say this: their front court becomes an elite lockdown front court because they're both stellar on defense, both two-way players. So in terms of the front court, they're cool. Now, when I'm not even talking about depth of perimeter play and all of that shit, but you mentioned Norman Powell. We're talking about perimeter play, right? Norman Powell, so all-star, right? I think he made the all-star team this year, right? It's a good move. He's a good player. Really, really good player. I actually like that trade when he came over from the Clippers to the Heat. But he's not. I wouldn't consider him like a really good two-way player. You know what I'm saying? He can score and he can he can shoot the three ball a little bit, but he's not known for perimeter defense, right? Like in perimeter defense, especially in the East, is imperative. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, they have some financial issues they're going through that may actually even inhibit their ability to sign him potentially. So you know what I'm saying? With his current market value, being 20 million or better. So we don't even know for sure that they're going to be able to keep Norman Powell. If they do that, they're going to have to, make some creative cuts in other places. Shit. So they got a lot of things they gotta address. But you mentioned Bobby Portis, and Bobby Portis is a good player. Again, he's not a two-way player, right? You know what I'm saying? Their defensive ratings are, I think, like 113 and 115 and above, and that's not crazy. So where's the perimeter defense coming from, right? Also, they got Wiggins. Same thing, Portis. Now, same thing with Portis and Norman Powell. So they have okay players on offense. Not world beaters, but definitely not good perimeter. Not they don't have any real two-way guys. You know what I mean? Like the Knicks. You see how important to winning a championship, good serviceable two-way guys are an OG, and Mikel, and even to a certain degree like Deuce and guys like that. So they I don't know how they're really going to build out the margins with the lack of cap flexibility and now using all your picks. You did. I would like to say Davion Mitchell, right at the point. Okay, I mean I'm trying to find like a fucking light at the end of the tunnel here. Davion Mitchell, he's an okay guard, and I watched the Heat a little bit this year because of Mambo. You know what I mean? And just because they're a rival, and you know I don't know. I just some reason the Heat intrigued me a little bit. You know what I mean? So I got to see Davion play a little bit. He can shoot the three. Yeah, he's a dog. He's a two-way player. He can he can lock down opposing guards. A good combo player. Doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Yada yada yada. A little bit undersized. Struggles when he gets in the paint. I was looking at a lot of highlights. Has a nice little floater, but he doesn't score at the rim like the way Brunson can as an undersized guard. He's good, but are you winning a championship with Davion Mitchell as your point guard right now? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be very interesting what Pat Riley does over there. But as of right now, I don't see a huge impact. Um, but then again, I'm not a GM. I don't know. But just looking around the league, I don't know what they do. You know what I mean in terms of, and I definitely don't see them as why they would be number 5 to win the NBA championship. You know what I mean? That to me, that shit sounds insane right now.
Yeah,
You
when you
know,
said that, that was like number 5 in the whole
Knicks are
league.
4. Yeah, in the whole league. Yep.
So they just put them right behind the Knicks. That's crazy. The defending champion. Like that's bugged out.
I definitely think that Milwaukee won this trade. You know what I mean? We'll see what they do. Are they going to flip some of these shits, or are they going to, you know, we'll see what they're going to do. But yeah, I don't look at that. It's going to be exciting for the Heat fans. Obviously, you know what I mean. You got Giannis in your building, and Bam, and it's going to, it's going to be a lot of alley ooping and. But I just don't see it, man. I don't think they're better than Orlando, even though Orlando was a little bit of a disappointment. They're definitely not better than Detroit. Definitely not better than the Knicks. Definitely not better than Boston. We don't know what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown, but I got a feeling he's going to stay in Boston. You know what I mean? Where else is he really going to go? Uh, who else is in the East? Am I missing
Cavs,
anybody? Who?
the Cavs.
Not better than the Cavs. Absolutely not better than the Sixers. Right? Uh, who am I missing? Who am I missing?
That's like the top one. Yo, they're right back to being the Heat are right back to being like an eighth seed, basically. Like, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
But you know, but let's
No,
see. I don't,
Wizards. The Wizards are trash, but they're gonna re-sign Trey Young and they got Anthony Davis. So I don't know, man. Well, I don't. At best, they're seventh in the league. You said seventh or eighth, maybe a little higher than that, maybe 6 or 7. But in the whole NBA, I don't know how they got them at 5. That's mind blowing to me. But it should be exciting. Um, I'll tell you a trade that I did get a little bit excited was the Hornets and the um Minnesota Timberwolves trade, man. Obviously, Hornets. And listen, in a big blockbuster trade, the Charlotte Hornets traded guard LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to the Minnesota Timberwolves. In exchange for Ball and Green, the Hornets received Nas Reed, a 2033 unprotected first round pick swaps in 2028, 2029, 2030, 3 second round picks in 29, 32, and 33. Your thoughts, and this ties in a little bit to what the Knicks are going to do with Mitchell Robinson, and we'll Tyler on in at some point. But I like this fucking trade for the Timberwolves, man. For the Hornets too, but definitely for the Timberwolves. What are your thoughts on this trade?
I think this was a good trade. I think it's going to be interesting to see LaMelo Ball play with Anthony Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think
Yeah,
losing. I don't think the Timberwolves losing Nas Reed and Julius Randle is going to be detrimental, to be honest, man. Like, because now they're gonna have Jaden. You got Jaden Daniels.
McDaniels.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels. Like he's just maybe like a tier below
He's
Randall. You
good,
know what I mean? Like, but he's
and
still
he's
a
getting
great. He's
better.
he's
Yeah.
still a good player. Like I don't think it's gonna be. I think the Timberwolves now are gonna be a faster team. Looking at them last year, I don't think they were pushing as much as they did. I think them now getting LaMelo Ball is gonna, we are gonna see better transitions. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. They still got obviously Rudy Gobert, and I still, their depth still, slightly worries me. Especially without Dante DiVincenzo. I know because the torn Achilles, so it's just unfortunate that he's not. Who knows how he's gonna come back and what time frame he is gonna come back. We've seen players come back, viciously quick, but is that going to be the same thing for him? It happened in the playoffs. It's going to be probably mid-season, but overall the starting lineup, I did think it was an upgrade, and it's going to be interesting. I'm a fan of LaMelo Ball. I think he's the better of the brothers.
Oh
And
yeah, no
yeah,
question about
what
it.
I mean, like without a doubt, and what I mean, he's a fun kid to watch play. It's going to be that's going to be something I would prefer to see. See how him, because we saw how Randall and Edwards, you know, their tandem was, and it wasn't something to jump out of your seat. I
No,
think
because
I
Randall
think
was too inconsistent.
exactly, and I think LaMelo Ball, he knows how to move the ball around. Like he's a great point guard. It's going to be interesting to see like how that team now is going to adjust with this new starting lineup and the fast pace with this duo now, because now that they are probably going to be one of the better, like they're going to be a really great duo. You got to put them up there to see like what's going to happen, but you know
I shit. You tell no lies, man. I'll tell you what. I was like super excited. It's gonna be fun to watch these two play together. The Julius Randle move going to the Nets right now. We looking back, we go, okay, that was a salary dump, making room to get LaMelo, obviously. But all the things you said about LaMelo, I'm very high on LaMelo. LaMelo can hoop. I don't think Charlotte really, really wanted to give him up. Um, but they do have Kobe White, who they signed. I mean, who came in a trade over there at the end of the thing. And I think what they got for him was the juice was worth the squeeze. But him and Con Knipple, they were a very nice backcourt as well, and they were doing the thing. They would shoot the fucking lights out. But in terms, I do understand. But in terms of Minnesota, right? We all know we all saw in the playoffs last couple of years. Anthony Edwards on ball getting double teamed like crazy, right? And he was getting limited. Plus, he was hurt, but he was seeing so many double teams. It was insane. And Julius Randle couldn't help take that load off of him. You know what I'm saying? So LaMelo coming in there, one, like you said, he's a big kid. He's a big guard, right? He's a hell of a passer. He's a great passer. Has great court vision. He shoots the lights out of the ball. I think he was second in the league, only behind his teammate Knipple last year in 3-point percentage or whatever, 3-point shots made, whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? He can drive to the basket. He's a slasher. He's got ups. He's fucking super fucking entertaining, and he's gonna get um Anthony Edwards back to going one on one with players. And we're gonna see Anthony Edwards look more like Anthony Edwards again this year. You know what I mean? Um, and I think one thing I do think they need to do is I think they kind of what the Knicks had to do a little bit. What they intended to do in the beginning of the year, and then the Knicks had kind of fallen back in their old ways, and then you saw it a little bit more in the playoffs. Is get Anthony Edwards off the ball the same way they got Jalen Brunson off the ball. I think Anthony Edwards is going to have to learn to play off ball a lot more. A lot. His usage rate going to be a little bit lower. It can't be as ball dominant. I think if he learns how to do that, I think they're going to be extremely entertaining to watch, and I think they're going to be really good. And I think you mentioned David McDaniels. I like him. The other kid, Ayo, what's the kid? Ayo, he cracks me up because they got like the pause name. Ayo Dasamo, whatever his name is.
Yeah, the sign the move,
Dasamo, yeah, whatever it is and shit.
sound
Yeah,
like a Marvel villain.
Exactly. He's a decent player. And you got Rudy in the middle. Rudy's the eraser. Rudy's like the Mitchell Robinson of the crew. You know what I mean? So now LaMelo, is he the best on ball defender? No, but he's athletic enough, and he is he's young enough that if he makes an effort, he can be serviceable on defense. I don't now the flip side to that trade is that I think they got a little bit smaller. I don't know, going up against like the Joker and some of those bigger guys out in the West. I don't know. That was the move, but we'll see. Like you said, teams are getting a little bit smaller. We saw what the Knicks did, and I think like Jalen Brunson is starting to like everyone's saying, oh, we could win. We could win with a guard, just a guard backcourt or a smaller backcourt. So I don't know. I like I said, I think they're gonna be fucking. I think they're gonna be very entertaining. I'm looking forward to what the Timberwolves do, and at the very least, if they don't win the championship, they're gonna be. I think they'll be in the thick of shit out there. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely. I don't know what else is on the board, but those two trades to me, I think the LaMelo Ball trade is way more exciting than the Giannis trade, and I think the Timberwolves, although they didn't win because the Hornets got a nice package, I think they both won that trade. You know what I mean, so to speak. And I also think that what's the name? What's the coach in Minnesota? Oh man, what the fuck is his name? What's the Timberwolves coach? Fitch, whatever his name is.
Is it?
What the fuck is his name? Fuck is his first name?
Oh, Chris Finch.
Chris Finch. Yeah, I'm thinking Bill Finch, but Chris Finch. I think he is going to have to really get these guys to buy in to making a effort on defense. especially in that backcourt. Like that has to be his thing. You know, kind of like Mike Brown got the Knicks to buy in to what he was selling, and they did. So I think they're gonna have to do that. I think Finch is a decent coach, but yeah, I like the trade. I like the trade a lot. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing them two play together. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah. I want to see what the Hornets are going to turn out with those trades. I wonder if they're going to just flip them just to build around Knipp because, like what you said, he's, he has the he from what they're saying, his trajectory, he could be a better 3-point shooter than Steph Curry. And that's why I think that's why it made it. Even though they didn't want to lose LaMelo, I just think it made it be a little bit more easier because I think he became the face of that team. I think
Yeah,
with everything around them, but it's just he's still gonna need some help. And that's why I agree with what you said. Like they did get a lot of trades and they both kind of won. Now the Hornets gonna be a team and utilize those picks to build correctly around Knipple
yeah,
because then if not, then it's just gonna be like the Timberwolves definitely won it. But I think only time will tell the true story around like what happened
yeah.
between
I
these two
I
teams.
agree. I agree, and they got a decent roster. They got, like I said, Kobe White. He can give you 20.
Hmm.
It's not like they're losing all of that Lamelo scoring. Now they're losing a little bit of court vision and a 3-point shooter. But you still got Brandon Miller. You still have like I said, Kobe White. They can give you 20, 22 a piece. You got Miles Bridges over there now. You know what I'm saying? The kid in the middle, Haynes Steinbach or whatever. The kid I'm hoping the Knicks possibly could replace Musa Diabate or whatever. I don't know. They're a little bit loaded in the front court. They got a lot of depth in the front court, so they're probably going to move off one of those guys. And we're going to get into the Mitchell Robinson thing. One of the guys I wouldn't mind. Like if I had my choice, the kid Musa Diabate would be the pick. But in terms of the Hornets, they have a nice team. Do they have a championship team? No, but they have some depth. They have some shit to build around. You know what I mean? They have some good pieces, so they'll be competitive. But we'll see what they do. We'll see how they build off these assets they just got. You know what I mean? But let's keep it pushing. Got a couple more subjects to talk about. If you guys see me and I feel a little lackadaisical, I'm not tired, but I'm lagging, man. You know what it is because the weeks are so long and the weekends are so short. But Mitchell, this is hurting my heart, man. Mitchell Robinson coming off a championship Knicks winning season. The Knicks have some hard choices to make, right? They don't they You heard Dolan on the fan on the Craig Carton show emphatically say we don't want to get into the second apron. That will be quote unquote suicidal, right? So he was emphatical about it from the gate. Now we all know what the second apron can do, but because they don't want to go into the second apron where you can, where there's so many penalties, they're potentially going to lose a long tenured New York Knick and a New York Knick favorite, and really an important and vital cog in what they do. You know what I mean? Mitchell Robinson. Now this one doesn't sit well with me, man. It looks very likely. It's not set in stone yet, but it looks very likely that Mitchell Robinson will be looking for a pay raise, and that the Knicks will not be able to give him this pay raise, and he will be moving on elsewhere. If you are a Knicks fan, which you are, what are your thoughts on this? How upset are you? And what can the Knicks do to possibly replace a guy like Mitch, a defender, an offensive rebounder, just an anchor in the middle? What are your thoughts on this shit, man? It's just crazy.
We lose him, we're gonna take a hit. Basically whoever we're gonna get. There's no replacing Mitchell Robinson. And even though he can't shoot free throws, and if the next center we get can shoot free throws, they can't do the other five important things that he does on that court, man. Like the amount of shot blocking, the rim protecting, the rebounding, the offensive rebounding, extending these plays. Like it's just he's such a big piece, and the fact that we drafted him, it just makes it even sweeter, and he got to win with the team that he drafted,
Yeah.
was drafted to. Like we I've never seen that happen in our lifetime. Obviously we never seen the Knicks win in our lifetime anyway. But even in the '70s when they won, I don't even think they won with anybody that they did draft. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I don't know if they drafted Frazier. I would have to go back. But obviously that's before my time. I don't know
Yeah, I'm
about
not
those
a,
drafts.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I
it
think
should.
Frazier might have been drafted. I think
Yeah.
the Pearl was Earl Monroe was. I'm gonna look that up, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, yeah, it's just good to see that happen. He's a homer, man. We always like to have those guys stay with us and finish their careers out here. Obviously, um,
Yeah, Frazier was
let
drafted by the Knicks. Yeah, got
yeah,
it.
he was right. That's why I kind of
Yeah,
felt like
yeah,
but obviously, like Xander Zayas is part of the business, right? People are gonna leave.
yeah. I
You
was
know,
just
we,
lying
we
last night.
yeah, we did a lot. We had to make a lot of moves. I think Leon Rose made an incredible job. Obviously losing Mitch it's gonna take a toll on us, but I do have the utmost faith in what Leon Rose does next. I don't see any replacing. Am I nervous of losing Mitch? Yeah. Do I think it's gonna happen? Yeah. Like the only way we could retain him is if he takes a pay cut. And then when you start talking about all these pay cuts, he was, he was a big part of us getting to where we were, and he had some key plays and moments in that finals that help us, win. So like it's hard to ask somebody who was getting paid 15 million. It's not like he's even getting like a ton of money. It's a lot to us, but compared around to the regular league, it's not a lot. And then to ask him to get paid $8 to $9 million, a year, like it's gonna be like, I could probably go somewhere else and do what I gotta do. There is two people that I wouldn't mind that I would feel most comfortable, losing Mitch and replacing it is either Vucevic from the Celtics or Walker Kessler. Like I think those are the
Well,
only two
those
people.
who you would pick? Okay.
Those are the only two I wouldn't mind. Like I said,
Mm.
obviously they're not, Mitchell Robinson, but I think
Okay.
it's not gonna be a complete. It's not going to be a complete. Cause I know we even talked about in the past of when we thought we were losing Mitchell Robinson and we were going to trade him and stuff like that. We talked about Walker Kessler at that point too. So
Yeah, Walker
you know,
Kessler was on. Yeah.
like we'll
Can they?
see.
I
I
don't
think
even know if they can get him though. Is that even an option? I don't even know.
you know,
I haven't looked into it, but
you
someone
know,
like that, I would think.
it could be a possible trade, but I don't know how they would do it. Vucevic would probably be a little bit easier because I think he's unrestricted. He's an unrestricted free agent, so we're just gonna have to see. And he's a veteran too, so we'll probably be able to get him for the veteran minimum, which
Yeah.
would be obviously more affordable. But damn, it's gonna suck to lose him. But at least he got to at least we got to see him win with the Knicks, and he can say he won with the team that drafted him. And if he does leave, then let him. More power to him. You know, get the bag. You did your job here, man. But if we could somehow find a way to retain him, then I would be ecstatic. It would be like Christmas in July.
Yeah, man. Fuck that. Going to the apron, man. This is Mitch we talking about. This is you got a shot to
Yeah.
win a championship, man.
That apron is vicious, though, man. I was reading
Yeah,
about it, but
let's read that shit right now. So the second apron penalties. The second apron is a strict financial and transactional threshold in the collective bargaining agreement that prevents high spending teams from maintaining and building super teams. Thank you, LeBron and these motherfuckers for this shit. Teams exceeding this limit face massive luxury tax bills and severe limitations on trades, draft picks, and free agent signings. Here we go. Trade restrictions, no aggregation. Teams cannot combine two or more player salaries to match a larger outgoing salary in a trade. Obviously, a hindrance. No cash. Franchises are prohibited from sending or receiving cash considerations in any trade. A big thing that goes on in the business of the NBA between teams. No traded player exemptions. Teams cannot use trade exemptions generated in prior years, nor can they take back more salary than they trade away. Okay. No sign and trades. Second April teams cannot acquire a player via sign and trade. Bro, this limits you. Forget about the money for a second. Frozen picks, first round draft picks, 7 years out cannot be traded. Bro, this is crazy. Okay, signing limitations. No MLE. Teams cannot use a taxpayer mid-level exemption to sign free agents. Dog, you hear this shit? This is how you build out your roster with role players. Buyout restrictions. The franchises are banned from signing players bought out during the regular season who previously made more than the non-taxpayer MLE. Example, 12.2 million. Okay, draft penalties, pick movement. If a team remains in the second apron for 3 out of 5 seasons, excuse me, their first round pick is automatically moved to the very end of the first round, irrespectively of the actual regular season. Okay, so financial penalty addition. Okay, so it gets a little monotonous at this point. But you heard the first couple of stipulations, man.
Vicious.
It's insane. You know what I mean? I get it, but here's my counter to that. You can win it right now. You can go out there and win again. Now I know there hasn't been a team that's won back to back in what 10 years since the Warriors, but you still got a shot. You still got a shot, right? I understand Dolan is unwilling to pay the money and to have to deal with all these stipulations, and Mitch wants to raise, and he might even want to be a starter somewhere, and Karl Anthony Towns would have to take a pay. I mean, there's so much that would have to go into it, but match it, bro. In my opinion, go into that shit. Fuck it. Let's run it back. If they wanted to, what's crazy is they can only offer him 8 million or 9 million per season. So that's grossly. He's not looking for that. You know what I mean? He's going to be looking for way more than that, and he deserves way more than that. He's going to get a lot of interest on the open market. I heard the Lakers might want him. Lakers need like a big man. You know, they've been searching for a big man. They had Ayton last year. You know, Ayton is. So if they were to get Mitch, that'd be kind of crazy. Robinson, man, how do you replace that, man? You mentioned a couple of guys. He's an elite rim protector. His offensive rebounding is fucking crazy. You know, this is a huge blow, man. A couple years ago, we lost Hartenstein. Remember that? And 2 years ago, I think, and they had a chance to keep him or Mitch. And I said right on the show, got to keep Mitch, man. His size, his athleticism, his rim protection, his offensive rebounding is one of the best in the league. And not only his offensive rebounding, he gets key offensive rebounds in key clutch situations. You know what I'm saying? It's but you know, so that was a blow. So this apron thing is really crazy, man. And I back to that. I said don't keep Mitch because Hartenstein's too small. Now we're gonna kind of run into that same problem. I understand this is business. Business sucks. I get all that, but you mentioned a couple of guys. I don't honestly know who can replace him. I heard a couple of different names, man. I heard Walker Kessler. But this kid, yo, check this kid out. The Diabate kid on Charlotte. That would be. I'm looking at all these guys. Because I was looking around. I'm like, I seen some of the names they were throwing out, and I didn't see a lot of him play. But I was looking at some of his highlights and stuff. And out of all the potential replacements, listen, he can slash. He can go to the bucket. You know what I mean? He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. That's one of the things we definitely need to replace. You know what I'm saying? And that's very impressive. I believe the Hornets were second in the league in second chance points at 17. So that fits right in our wheelhouse and what we're trying to do and our whole thing with Mike Brown. And I believe, you know, he's a high energy guy, high motor guy. He hustles. You know, he seems like a dog. You know what I mean? And I know, you know, they got, like I said, they got a log jam in the front court. So the kid Moussa Diabate, man, I think if we got him, we wouldn't forget about Mitch, but I think he would definitely service that role that he has to do. I also heard Kevon Looney. I don't know if you heard about that. Kevon Looney's interesting, man, because he came into the league. I don't know if you remember, before he even played an NBA game, he had 2 hip surgeries. Everybody kind of thought he was not really going to be durable and last, but he once had 20 rebounds in 3 straight playoff games with Golden State. He's a little undersized, but he's a great rebounder. I heard Draymond Green say great things about him, said he's a professional, he's a dog. You know, he'll go to Warner Foxhole with you. I don't watch him necessarily on a nightly basis, but I've seen him play before. He is a dog. He might be a viable option for the Knicks as well. I heard he's a priority. That's what I understand. He's familiar with Mike Brown, you know, from the whole Golden State system. So he's somebody that that possibly could fit here. Nick Richards, I heard. I'm not crazy about him. You know what I mean? And then I heard Huck Porty. Huck Porty, obviously a guy we drafted, right? He's here already. I'm not sure about Huck Porty, man. Like I last he showed us, like he would show us flashes, right? Like last year, like, oh, Huck Porty, he might be. Oh shit, he might be all right. Then he like he doesn't show you anything for a while. So I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's developed enough. He has the height. I just right now I'm not a super Huck Porty guy. I think he possibly could develop a little bit more. But what do you think about Huck Porty in terms of him like being the main guy to replace Mitch?
Still, still a question mark. He's definitely,
Yeah, definitely.
he's definitely not consistent. Like, I know he has the height, but he definitely doesn't have the strength because we've seen him with with centers that basically around same size as him, and he's getting beat. So with Mitch, 9 times out of 10, he's gonna win. Like he's gonna grab that rebound or just tip it out somewhere. With
Mm-hmm.
Huck Porty, I don't know if it's because of maybe, you know, like I said, more playing time and just to get and show some additional progression. Because I think where he's standing sometimes under the basket just puts him out of place. His boxing out. It definitely needs to improve. Yeah, he can shoot free throws, but like he's not a direct fitment and just be like, okay, yeah, we could just take him out and then replace him, and then yeah, we're good to go. Man, you wishing on a prayer at that moment. But I'm not saying well, I don't think we've seen his ceiling, but we haven't. I haven't seen enough to feel confident that okay, this is where we're going. And it's going to be an automatic impact. I don't think I don't feel confident with that.
What about Shamit, bro? It's possible we're gonna lose Shamit. It's more than likely Shamit's gonna be gone too. Uh, we got Diawara, who's already here. I kind of like him. I got a
Yeah.
lot of you saw, like, again, you saw flashes from him this year.
Mhm.
He's kind of in and out of Mike Brown's rotation early on in the season. I kind of like Mo Diawara, but they also look like they got this kid Tyler Nickel, who I'm not even going to sit and act like I know a lot about. I don't. I saw a couple of his highlights. I read a little bit about him, but I didn't watch him on a daily basis or enough to really make a educated assessment on him. But they seem to think he could possibly be part of a committee that could place Landry Shamet. You got some serviceable guards here already. You got two guys like obviously Deuce. Who could shoot a little bit, even though he had really bad finals or whatever. They got to make a decision on Clarkson. I say you sign Clarkson back, in my opinion. Um, Clarkson's interesting because he kind of started out the season. Him and Malcolm Brogdon got signed. Brogdon tapped out. Clarkson comes in. He's like, we always say we need a bucket getter. He fit that description. He fit that mold. We always talked about how we wanted Clarkson. He comes in. He starts out in Mike Brown's rotation, and he's his usual guy. Comes in, energy getter. A spark. Clarkson gets the ball. He's shooting the ball. You know what I mean? But he comes in. He's automatically shooting, and that's kind of what we wanted. You know what I mean? Volume shooter. So he came in Mike Brown's rotation like the player he was. But then he kind of transformed. I don't know if you noticed. He kind of like transformed a little bit. You know what I mean? Towards like, because he fell out of Mike Brown's rotation for a minute. Like there was times I'd be like, why are we not putting Clarkson in the game? Like we need a bucket off the bench. You know what I mean? But he's kind of turned into, as the season went on, and he kind of fell out of favor in Mike Brown's rotation. He kind of turned into this like hustle type of guy, this, even like hustle defensive type of guy. You see him picking up other teams' guards at 94 feet, pressing, you know what I mean? So what I noticed with him, and this is why I would sign him again, that told me he's willing to change and he's willing to sacrifice. And you need guys like that. Cat had to do it. He had to do it. You know what I mean? A lot of different players had to sacrifice for the better of the team to buy in. So I think you got to bring Clarkson back, especially if you're going to lose Shamit. But what do you think about the Shamit loss?
I know Shaman.
Or
He's a
potential, sorry.
yeah. Shaman's a two-way player, but I'm not like that. That popping like I would prefer for us to keep Jordan Clarkson because, like how he changed, like what you said, and then how he started hustling, and I think that's because of the lesser playing time, and he still
Yeah,
could go out there and get a bucket. He had super key, tough clutch shots in the
yeah.
finals and in the playoffs, and we needed that spark off the bench when
So did
nobody
Shaman too,
else could
though.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Shamit's more of a he's a stop and pop shoot.
Mm-hmm.
He's a placement shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are, and I don't want to say this about Shamit. I appreciate what he did,
Mm-hmm.
but that type of style is a
Mm-hmm.
dime a dozen in the NBA, man. There's a ton of people that can just go to their spot, shoot, and drill a three at a high percentage of 38%,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
40%.
yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like we are, but not all those guys can hustle and play defense like Shamit does neither. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't mind keeping Shamit. I just don't. I don't think it's gonna be as big of a loss. Like losing like other players. Like I think like on the bench like Jordan Clarkson and of course Mitchell Robinson. I think that those are players that I would prefer to keep. I think we can build. I think we can find somebody somewhere out there that can do what Shamit is doing for the Knicks right now.
I agree. I agree. A lot of question marks for the Knicks, man. When you heavy is the head that wears the crown, or whatever, however the sentence goes, right? The phrase goes. So yeah, we got Knicks have some choices to make, but let's close out like this. I will say this in closing: I trust in Leon Rose and these guys, Leon Worldwide West. They've made great decisions. I like what they did in the draft. I really don't want to get too much into the draft because it's not really sexy, but they traded out of the first round, got a couple guys in the second round, got some cash considerations, and you know I see what they do. You know what I mean? I see how they move. They move. They know what they're doing. So if anyone can piece back together these little integral pieces that they need in order to win the championship, it's Leon Rose. So I'm not super worried. I'm just it sucks because you get emotionally attached to some of these guys. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like you said, Xander said, it's a business. And we're in the business of winning now. You see this fucking hat right here. You see this hoodie. We're in the business of winning now. This is no longer the old school Knicks. So I do trust in Leon Rose, and we'll see what happens. Either way, they'll still be competitive. They get somebody in there, and I see good things for the Knicks next year. They're gonna keep. They're gonna, the core guys are gonna remain intact. Um, you want to get into the boxing, or you want to do that? You want to dead that for this week?
It's up to you.
I will talk a little bit about it. Uh, the boot shit, man. Boots first, yo, man. Listen, let me tell you something before we start this. I love the NBA. I love football, but I love fucking boxing, bro. Like boxing is like, you know what I mean? Because boxing is your like the NBA. Yeah, you got teammates, and there's a bunch of different moving parts, and more so in the NFL, you got a lot of more moving parts, and so it's boxing is you and the other dude. No excuses. If you have a bad night, you're losing. You can't blame it on the point guard. You can't blame it on the coach. You can't. It's only you. So that's to me. That's what it makes boxing so intriguing to me. Last night, we haven't talked boxing on this channel in a while, but last night, Boots versus Zayas, right? Jaron Boots Ennis, the Philadelphia Phenom versus Xander Zayas, up and coming. Well, he's actually here already. Really good, young, hungry, talented Puerto Rican fighter. They got it popping in Brooklyn last night in the Barclays. I want to say congrats to both of them. Congrats to Zayas. You showed a lot of heart. Everyone knows I'm a Zayas guy and I'm a Boots guy. So watching this fight was like, damn, like you know what I mean? Like when 2 year guys fight, when you have so much respect for both guys, it's like, damn, you know what I mean? Like it's a little weird. You don't know who to root for. But congrats to Boots. He became a two-time unified champion yesterday, beating Zayas and lifting those two straps. He got the WBA and the WBO straps at 154 off of Xander. Xander wound up getting stopped in the sixth round. Vicious stoppage. His corner throws in the towel. Xander put up a valiant effort. You know what I mean? Especially early in the fight. That third round obviously was a game changer. A lot of people, I'm looking at a lot of analysts and pundits and stuff. A lot of these guys scratched their head saying, why is Xander coming forward? A lot of people think he should have boxed on the back foot. But I actually kind of understood it, and maybe we'll get into that in a little bit, like stylistically, why he did that. And I just think he thought in his mind, I'm let's be honest, I'm not going to be able to outbox Boots. So I'm the bigger guy. I've been at 154 way longer than Boots. This is only his second fight, and his first fight was a round and some change or whatever it was. So he's not as acclimated to this. So I'm just going to bum rush him. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be the come forward guy, and I'm going to try to out muscle him and out power him. And it was a good strategy because if he sat on his back foot, he wasn't going to outbox Boots. But Boots came out like a showman a little bit. Right, came out hitting it. The first round. I was like, "Oh shit, Xander's about to get cooked," because he was hitting him with the jab. He was moving. He was slipping. He was playing around. You know what I mean? He just looked official, hot dogging a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, the jab was stiff, and he was connecting. He was. He came out like he was on one that on that first round. Before I get into my analysis, what do you thought? What was your take on that fight, man? I know you Puerto Rican. You love your Puerto Rican people and everything. But one thing I respect about you, and respect about me is I don't just basically bang for my heritage. I just like fighters based on who they are. You know what I'm saying? And I judge fighters based on what they do. And you're very you're very good at being able to separate that. So talk a little bit about that fight last night.
Yeah, it was a great fight, and this is why I think Boots is like one of my favorite boxers right now. Like at least at that pinnacle, like top of the line. Like he's just an exciting boxer. Like he goes there to fight. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between boxing and fighting. He can do both, but he's such a great fighter.
Yes.
And I think this fight, and I know you said it last night. I think Xander took. We've seen so many young boxers in their career take fights much too early, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like this was one of them. But he's young. He felt that confidence. I don't know if it was the Puerto Rican ego in him that he thought he was gonna be able. But if you watch any of Boots fights, he knows how to fight, and he's a technician when it comes to knocking people out. And take over the fight, and that's what he did last night, and I think there was a couple of things that Xander could have done a little bit better. He was obviously definitely getting hit way too much. His hands was down, but Boots is quick, man. Boots is quick. He knows how to slip those hooks in and those jabs, and he just finds like that uppercut and that uppercut in the fourth round.
That's a cook. I think to me they should have stopped it right there. The uppercut was sick. Go ahead, yeah.
And you just saw it in Xander's face, like, damn, I was surprised he got up because I didn't think he was gonna make it. Yeah, but facts. Like I think Xander needed to do a little bit of both. I think he needed to put pressure on Boots, but only when necessary, because he was tagging him with the straight rights, he was hitting him with the overhand left. So he was tagging Boots, but I think he was staying in the telephone booth with him for too long at moments, and that's why he got knocked down 3 times. Because if you're in there, Boots is just gonna keep attacking you, and like as soon as he felt overconfident, he did get a little wobbly in the 3rd round. But and they took their breaks off, and they took a break in the 5th round.
He was hurt in the 3rd round. At first, you guys were like, he's hurt. You and Ray was like, he's hurt, and I was like, nah, he's not hurt. Then I was looking at him like, nah, he's hurt.
No, yeah, he's hurt.
It took him a good round and some change to get right, but he bit down on his mouthpiece and.
Yeah, and then in the and then the 6th and 7th round, he came back in. Like the 4th round was a big round too, and the 5th round they just took like a break off. And then the 6th and 7th, Boots just looked like he was just dominant all over again. Just he looked like he did in the 1st round. He was just outclassing him. He was tagging him way too much. But and I give Xander that props. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to be. He's a great speaker. Like hearing him speak after the fight, like he has a bright future. But it's just. It's just unfortunate when you think you could do something and then you just get outclassed in such a manner where it just I don't think he's gonna question this loss. We've seen that plenty of times happen to boxers where they just they take some too early, or they just get outclassed, and the next thing they're just like, oh fuck, And then
Nah,
it's just
he'll learn from it.
there. He's
He'll
gonna
learn
learn
from it.
from
He's
them.
like the Canelo Floyd shit. He'll learn from it.
Exactly, but yeah, it was just, and I thought from the very beginning, and I don't care if my Puerto Rican people mad at me. I thought I didn't know, but I felt like Boots was gonna win this fight. Like
Yeah.
you could just see he was the better fighter. Yeah, it just says he's a little bit older and Xander's younger. Age don't factor into that, man. It's skill, and from what I've seen from Boots, his past couple of fights, he's just he's like dynamite, man. He's like dynamite already about to explode. Like I think he's gonna take over this whole division and he's gonna unify it. And I'm waiting to see who he's gonna fight next. I think I would prefer to see him fight Fundora because I think he's gonna smack Virgil Ortiz around. But
Yeah.
Fundora will actually be able to probably keep him off because of the height and the reach. But like what you said too, Boots can definitely knock and stop Fundora down. I think that'll be, just a little bit more of an exciting standpoint, just to see if Boots can be able to adapt to, such a larger fighter than him. And if he does, then at that point, it's over. He's gonna run
Figure him
through
out.
this shit, and then he's gonna be out. You know what I mean? And then he's gonna move up to the next class. And I see, man, Boots is just, man, he's definitely one of my top favorites right now, bro.
Yo, man. Yo, let me tell you something. That's a great analysis too, right there, man. That was really good shit. Shout out. I want to shout out Xander, man. It's like you said, Xander. He came in there and he came to fight. He didn't have to take the fight. Todd DeBuff and Bob Arum and all them guys at Top Rank didn't want him to take that fight. You know what I'm saying? He forced that fight, and you know we're hardcores over here. We don't talk about boxing all the time, but we're hardcore boxing fans. We understand the business of boxing, the business how how the promotional shit is set up, how the TV networks are set up,
Mhm.
and um, you know, like in the past, you have a lot of these cold wars going on because this guy fights with this promotional team and he signed to this network and he doesn't want to fight that guy because he signed to this guy. He signed to this promotional guy and that guy signed to that network and nobody wants to share the money. And by the time the super fights come around, they have to do it and it's late and everything. So that's how the business of boxing normally works. You know what I'm saying? There are these cold wars, right? They're called the other side of the street in boxing. Nobody wants to cross the street, right? But now things are changing a little bit in terms of like a lot of these promotional companies are under the same umbrella. So I mentioned Todd DeBuff and Bob Arum. Normally, Top Rank would never ever fucking put Xander in the ring with a guy like Boots. You know what I mean? Because Top Rank are the best in the business at moving their fighters along and building their fighters, and you know what I mean. Like they're the key. They're A1 in the business at doing that. Um, but now, Top Rank recently lost their deal with ESPN, right? They took a deal with the Zone Network. Who's Matchroom with? Matchroom was with the Zone. Who's Golden Boy with? Golden Boy's with the Zone. You got other promotion companies like Pro Boxer do their thing and Boxer and PBC who are not with them. But three of the major big players are on the Zone, so that's going to make fights easier to do. So also, the Zone is going to be looking at these guys and putting pressure on them. I you don't might not want to do the Xander fight, but the Zone is saying this is best for my bottom line. They're putting pressure on them. You're on my network. You make the fight, or maybe next time when your contract's out, we don't re-up with you, and there's not a lot of places to go anymore, right? So that's one thing. But give Xander credit because he still had to take the fight himself. He still had to sign off on that shit. You know what I'm saying? And he get in there. He's a young champion. He's a warrior. But and I fuck with Xander. We've seen him on the Belanga undercards. We've seen me and you been there live many, many times. We knew Xander was that guy. But Boots dominated the fight. With all that being said, there were some key moments, key exchanges that had Boots hurt, particularly in that third round, like you mentioned with that overhand right that caught Boots and he stunned him, um, um, and took Boots a while to recover. But he bit down on his mouthpiece. And he did what he's supposed to do. Xander's definitely he looked like the bigger guy, and he is the bigger guy. He's been at 154 way longer. He's actually probably on his way out of 154, probably going to 160. He's on the way out of that division. And this is Boots, like I mentioned earlier. This is Boots' second fight at that division at 54. And the Lemos fight was small. You know what I mean? It was around and some change. You know what I mean? So he hasn't been acclimated. So that showed me the power of Boots, man. Because I'm like, yo, this is second fight at 54, and it's harder to beat the guys who've been sticking around a weight division for a long time because they're so used to that weight, and there's weight divisions for a reason. But Boots showed me immense fucking power last night. I was fucking so impressed. He was a smaller guy, and he just got popped. Things I really noticed, man. Boots was switching sides like every 2 seconds. He was like, and he's doing it so frequently and so effortlessly, and his transition from southpaw to orthodox was so smooth. You know, Boots is a intelligent fighter who's got pop. Who, you know, Xander's a dog, but and he's got some power too. But Boots' power is just Boots has knockout power. And here's the key to this, right? Key to last night. And I think this is what's going to really skyrocket Boots into the next stratosphere. And this is, and tell me if you agree when I tell you this. I think this is a good take. Him in that third round, him showing that vulnerability, right? It made a lot of these guys say, these boxers go, damn, man, I might got a shot at Boots. You know what I mean? Shit. If I could just do it like this, I might be able to beat him. You know what I mean? Because no one wants to see the invincible guy, right? Remember, Terrence Crawford, outside of the Mean Machine fight, basically didn't show hardly any vulnerability at all, and he really couldn't get in the ring with any of these top guys until late in his career. You know what I mean? That was always a knock on Terrence Crawford, his thin resume. You know what I'm saying? So for Boots to show vulnerability, you see Virgil Ortiz have to fight. I sleep Boots, and all these guys, Fundora, I think he's text somebody, let's make the fight or whatever. Now they're going, damn, but what they really don't see is how Boots really cooked, man. Like, he was playing with his food. He's so athletic, he's so fast, and will make Boots also, I think, going to take him to another stratosphere. Because let's be honest, Boots is athletic and talented enough and has a high enough IQ enough that he could afford in the back foot all night if he really wanted to. And Xander probably wouldn't have been able to touch him, right? But that's not fan friendly. Boots wants to get in there and scrap, and that fans love that shit. Listen, that's going to merge the casuals and the hardcores together. You know what I'm saying? Because casuals love to see dudes get knocked out, and hardcores love it too, but they also like to see guys being able, real technical guys and shit like that. So that's gonna merge them together, and that's gonna take him. To me, Boots. I was fucking impressed with Boots, man. Like I said, his power, athleticism, his fan-friendly style, his IQ. I think he has the traits to possibly become like the face of boxing. And one thing I'm gonna end off on this, and I'll let you take it if you want. The narrative on Boots, especially lately, has been that he gets hit too much. He the Roman Villa fight, the Avanesian fight or whatever, he gets hit too much. He should be fighting, like I said, he should be fighting on the back foot more, showing more athleticism. But like I said, I saw that last night, but what I saw last night is that he almost does that on purpose. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear Xander's too young. I don't want to hear he's too inexperienced, although he may be, but bro, he was a unified champion. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really do that. And Virgil Ortiz tweeted after the fight that he'll sleep Boots. Right now, I fuck with Virgil. Virgil's a good fighter, but Virgil, if I were you, brother, I'd be quiet, man, because that whole fight fell apart. It looked crazy. You and Golden Boy and your manager Rick Meridian, had an ugly battle in the media as well as litigation in court. You know what I mean? So like, for you to be running your mouth and then he disrespected Zayas, calling him a pussy that he tapped out. I like Virgil. He's a good fighter. He's down with Robert Garcia. I like the pedigree, and I know he's no punk, and he's had some good wins. You know what I'm saying? But right now, nah, man. It ain't the time to be talking shit. Like, niggas always want to talk shit that don't make the fights. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, man, I think Boots. I think if it doesn't make a fight, and before about the Virgil fight, which I didn't like, is that there were no strap on the line. Now, if they were to fight, there'd be a title on the line because Boots is unified, right? But I do like the Fundora fight. If I'm Boots, I go make the Josh Kelly fight, right? Josh Kelly has a strap. Josh Kelly's in the Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. Should be an easy fight to make. I think he beats Josh Kelly, no problem. He'll pick up that belt, right? He picks up that belt. He got 3 out of the 4 straps. Now You have a choice.
yeah.
You have the Fundora fight or the Virgil fight. Fundora for undisputed, Virgil Puerto Rico versus Mexico. That's always sells big, right? For the winner still remains unified, or Virgil becomes unified. So those are the fights, man. In 154, and I think there's no at 54. There's no other fights. Nobody wants to see Madrimov. Nobody wants to see Tim Zhu. He's obviously he's not going to get a shot at that, but those are the only fights at 54 that he could fight. And if I'm Boots, that's what I'm looking for. So get ready, because we're going to find out who the king of 154 is very soon. You know what I mean? I see probably Josh Kelly being the next fight for him. And then if you can figure out Fundora, like you said, which was great analysis, and I'll end it on this, is being fucking 6'5" at 154 with a monster reach, and being able to fight on the outside and keep niggas at the end of that jab, and being able to find range, and also being able to go into the fire. This motherfucking Fundora is the cheat code. So he's very difficult to figure out. But I do think if anyone can figure him out, it'd be Boots. And I think Boots is going to be the guy, bro, at 54, maybe even in boxing. And I'll end it off on that.
Read the take.
That's it, man. It's a good show.
Bird.
Really good show. We talked our shit, and please hit like, please hit subscribe. We getting love on TikTok, like I said, but please, I see the views. I don't see the likes, and the likes put us in front of new audiences. And like I said, we don't make any money off this shit. We're not even looking to make any money off this. We do it because we love it, but stop being stingy. All you gotta do is hit the fucking like button. And I'm fucked up. I don't do that shit myself either. I'm not. I don't know what it is about guys that want to hit like button, but I'm gonna be better at that. But please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and we will be back next week. And maybe at some point we'll start to add on another show. Who knows? But right now, this is kind of how we flowing, right?
Word.
All right, man.
Let's get know what it is. Peace.
Still Nick.
I got that fly shit on. All of my bills paid. Hey. I know they feel the way. I let my jewelry show. I let my diamonds hang.
You already suffered defeat.
You panicking, nigga. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, nigga.
That shit was crazy.
Shout out to Jadakiss walking out Boots too. That was a movie last night. That was dope. But yo, we'll catch you next week. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.